You're watching a new edition of an all-new look World Insight. Thanks for joining us here. We have a half-hour program right ahead, and as always, we're going to use that time to bring you all the latest news analysis. I'm your host, James Chow. We're going to start you off today in Madagascar. Now, many people know this country from the animated film of the same name, but the island is also a major tourist destination, famous for its diverse wildlife. Recent clashes, though, between political rivals have given it quite a different reputation. On Tuesday, after ousting President Marc Ravalomanana, military chiefs handed power to opposition leader Andry Rajoelina, ending weeks of civil unrest. But with Rajoelina now taking over, many are asking whether stability is truly at hand.
After weeks of civil unrest, a sense of normalcy is returning to the capital, Antananarivo. Headlines proclaim the resignation of President Marc Ravalomanana. To widespread but not universal delight, 34-year-old young Andry Rajoelina was given 4 pounds by the military on Tuesday.
It was very tough, but the people are very happy now because the goal has been achieved and Andry is in his rightful place.
Weeks of turmoil and protests have resulted in the death of more than 100 people, crippled tourism, and scared foreign investors in the mining and oil exploration sectors. But despite all these sacrifices, cheers and hope have welcomed Andry Rajoelina's presidency.
We are free because the dictator was forced to step down, and we put in his place the true democracy on our country and nation.
While some read the hand gesture as peace, others suggest it is mere victory. The civil unrest began when the government blocked an opposition radio station linked to the city mayor in late January. Angry Rajoelina supporters set fire to a building in the government broadcasting complex as well as a shopping mall. Days later, President Ravalomanana sacked Mayor Rajoelina and allowed soldiers to open fire on anti-government protesters. On Monday, tanks and troops took control of the presidential palace after the military joined Rajoelina. A day after, with few options left, the president decided to step down. Political unrest like this is not new to Madagascar. In 2001, Ravalomanana, then mayor of Antananarivo, ousted President Didier Rassirac in a similar row, as both claimed the presidency after a disputed election. Critics say these upheavals seem to be neither the beginning nor the end.
Conflicts between the mayor of the capital and the president reveal defects in Madagascar's institutional structures. The electoral process that has been transplanted onto African nations is a winner-take-all system. Given that, the political setup will continue to encourage oppositions to set up against the governing authorities.
For almost a month, a bitter power struggle has paralyzed the city's economy. Antananarivo's central Mega 13 square was a flashpoint for violence as Andry Rajoelina sought to topple Marc Ravalomanana. Now, although the dust has settled, many of the plaza's main stores remain locked behind metal grills. Streets have been cleaned up, but the presence of troops still remind people of the deadly street violence. The hardest hit, however, are those who rely on foreign holidaymakers.
At the moment, our business has collapsed because we depend on foreigners. Since the start of this political crisis, there haven't been any tourists. All the tourists have gone home, so things aren't going well at all.
The economy is the main concern for Madagascar, and it was the main reason for the discontent that brought Ravalomanana down.
There is a very big gap between the rich and the poor, and the government of Ravalomanana is not doing enough about it. That is the reason why people are protesting and the army is taking its responsibility.
Despite a 5% average annual growth in the last few years, 70% of the population still survives on less than $1 a day. This points to a growing exclusion of the majority from the benefits of social development. Previously, poverty was characteristic of rural areas, but since 2001, urban poverty has been on the rise. The situation came to a pivotal point when the president bought a private jet for $60 million shortly after the food crisis began.
The government is spending a big amount of money from the state budget without following the legal proceedings of the Constitution and buying an airplane with that money for personal use.
But will Rajoelina deliver the change he promised? As a successful businessman and one-time DJ, he is regarded by some as a maverick. During his campaign, he repeatedly condemned what he says are shrinking freedoms on the Indian Ocean island. But analysts say when he assumes the presidency, he is in for a tough time.
但是现在反对派也面临一个问题。
When Rajoelina is installed, he faces major challenges at home and abroad. For one thing, the 34-year-old leader is constitutionally 6 years too young to be a president, and he could face criticism for the way he has assumed power without being democratically elected. The question is one of legitimacy.
Right after the handover, the European Union warned development aid could be frozen if Ravalomanana was forced out. But according to the African Union's charter, coup or unconstitutional changes of government are cause for automatic suspension.
There is a procedure in each constitution.
But if they don't follow this?
If they don't follow this, this is a coup. Or an attempt to seize the power, but it could be the mayor. If the mayor access to the power, it is not constitutional. If the soldier access to the power, it is not constitutional.
For now, some of Madagascar's people are happy, while others are keeping their fingers crossed. The blackened building scarred the city center, a reminder of the political unrest that has taken the lives of hundreds. Madagascar's new leader only has a matter of weeks to restore the damage caused by the unrest and do better.
I consider that a lot of things have been achieved by the former president, and that we could see through the roads, through the telecommunications, through a lot of other things. But of course he has made a lot of mistakes, and this is obviously the reason why he is now in this situation. What we can hope for the future is that this country discovers the merits of a real democracy and struggle against corruption.
Faced with challenges at home and abroad, it is too early to say if the young man will do better than his predecessor. But for Rajoelina, the clock is ticking fast.
It's not just time and challenge that is testing the 34-year-old's leadership skills. What's even more important is whether a promised democratic election will take place in the next 2 years. We'll keep you updated on that front. Coming up next, though, we'll take you to another conflict, this time in Pakistan.